They say the devil once walked the dirt roads of my hometown, and the screams from the old mill, not the wind, but a massacre long buried. Have you ever wondered what your house is hiding? Every town has ghosts, but mine, they're practically neighbors. Marlow Hollow isn't just haunted, it's scarred. Exploring these stories means uncovering truths our community never dared to face until now. When I moved into my colonial home on Gallows Hill Road, people said, don't dig too deep. But I did. What I found was horrifying. Fires, suicides, missing people, all linked to this land. The deeper I searched, the more the hauntings escalated. Cold spots, phantom roses, knocking on the walls. It wasn't just stories. I had disturbed something, and it noticed me. St. Augustine Mill, burned in 1896. Screams and metal grinding still heard. Monroe House, family vanished in 1953. Doll still upstairs, no eyes. Hollow Creek Cemetery, unmarked graves. My attic once stood right above one. I moved my room after claw marks appeared inside the wall. I spent one night in the attic with a camera. At 3:17 a.m., cold surrounded me. The scent of roses filled the air. Then, he buried me beneath the floorboards. I fled. Reviewing footage, I saw her. A woman in black. Hollow eyes. Whispering. Historian confirmed. Isabel Thorne vanished in 1847. Her father built this house. There was a trapdoor once, right under my bed. These aren't just campfire tales. They're echoes of tragedy. In Marlow Hollow, the past isn't behind us. It's beneath us. And sometimes it wants to be heard. Ever had a haunting of your own? Drop in the comments. I want to hear it. And don't miss my next video on haunted graveyards where the dead don't rest easy. Subscribe if you dare. They say if you walk through Black Hollow Cemetery at midnight, you won't leave the same. Some say you won't leave at all. So why did I go back alone? There's something about graveyards that always drew me in. Not in a morbid way, but in that quiet, cold curiosity that makes you wonder who's still watching from below. For our town, Black Hollow Cemetery isn't just history. It's unfinished business. And I was foolish enough to investigate. It started with a local legend. A woman named Margaret Bellamy, buried alive in 1886. They say her screams could be heard for hours after her funeral. Her grave, a cracked stone in the far corner of the cemetery, always has fresh dirt around it. Even though no one's been buried near her in decades, I needed to know if the stories were real. My goal was simple, document the site overnight. But the moment I stepped past the rusted gate, it felt wrong. The wind died, the air thickened, and every instinct told me to run, but I didn't. The deeper I walked, the quieter the world became. My flashlight flickered as I passed each grave. Names I'd never heard of, lives long forgotten. But then, the temperature dropped near the Bellamy plot. My breath came out in clouds, even though it was late spring. I placed my recorder on the stone. Seconds later, static. Then a voice, raspy, terrified. Let me out, let me out. I spun around. No one was there. Just graves, and shadows between the stones that seemed to shift when I wasn't looking. At 3:06 a.m., I saw her. A pale figure in a tattered burial gown, standing behind her own grave. Face sunken, eyes hollow. She pointed toward the earth. I followed her gesture and saw the dirt breathing, moving, something underneath. Suddenly, hands burst from the soil. Old, rotted. I stumbled back, screamed, dropped my camera. When I looked up, she was gone. But the recorder? Still playing, still whispering. You were never meant to find me. I grabbed my gear and ran. I didn't stop until I saw the road lights. But the scratches on my leg, the cold in my bones, still haven't gone away. Black Hollow is still there, waiting. Margaret's grave remains undisturbed, on the surface. But I'll never go back. Sometimes, the dead aren't resting because they were never buried right in the first place. You ever hear a man cry in the middle of the night, but no one's there? In my town, Willamere Hollow, we don't call the police. We close the curtains, because when you hear him crying, it means someone's about to die. I grew up hearing ghost stories, tales passed down over dinner or whispered during blackouts. But in Willamere, the legends aren't just for thrills. They're warnings. The past never stays buried here, and I found out why the hard way. For years, people have reported strange cries near the edge of town. A man sobbing uncontrollably in the woods behind Old Millstone Bridge. The sound's been blamed for car crashes, missing pets, even heart attacks. The problem is, no one ever sees him. No face, just a crying. Curious, I started looking into the town archives. What I found was a pattern. Every time someone heard the crying, someone nearby died within a week. No obvious cause, no connection, and every death traced back to land owned in the 1800s by a man named Thomas Grady, a mill worker who lost his family in a fire. They say he lost his mind and eventually vanished near the same bridge. People assumed it was folklore, but I was determined to prove whether this was mass hysteria or something real. So I started investigating the Grady curse. I went to the old library and pulled the death records. 27 unexplained fatalities in a 1-mile radius over 70 years, all preceded by someone reporting the crying. I talked to an elderly woman, Mrs. Dawson, who grew up in the 1950s. She told me her brother vanished after they heard crying behind their house. "We just pretended he ran away," she said. But Mama, she knew. I visited Millstone Bridge at night, flashlight in hand. The place was drenched in fog. The air felt heavy. I didn't see anyone, but I heard it. The crying. Slow, deep, like a man mourning something too big to speak of. I recorded on my phone, but when I played it back later, all I heard was my own voice, whispering, "Help me." A week after I heard the crying, my neighbor Tom, a healthy, retired vet, died in his sleep. No illness, no signs of distress, just gone. The town coroner said it was old age, but Tom was 59. I remembered what Mrs. Dawson said. It doesn't take the one who hears it. It takes someone they love. That night, I had a dream, or maybe not a dream, where I stood on the bridge, face to face with Thomas Grady. His eyes were burned black, tears streaming like blood. He reached out and said, "I didn't mean to bring it with me." Then he disappeared, and I woke up screaming. Willowmere's haunted history isn't just superstition. These stories were left behind to protect us. But we stopped listening, and now it's listening to us instead. Have you ever heard something you couldn't explain in the woods or near your home? Let me know in the comments. And be sure to watch my next video about the death bell of Mercy Chapel, the one that rings before someone dies. Have you ever heard a church bell ring in the dead of night? When the church has no power, no priest, and no congregation left alive? In our town, when that bell rings, someone dies. And last week, it rang for me. Mercy Chapel has stood for over 150 years, a crumbling monument on a hill where fog clings like fingers. To outsiders, it's abandoned, but to us, it's active, not by the living, but by something else, and its bell only tolls for death. Growing up in Bramble Hollow, we were warned. If you hear the bell, don't answer the door that night. The problem is, no one ever figured out why it rings. There's no bell ringer. The tower's sealed. Yet the sound is unmistakable. 3 slow chimes, and then silence. I started researching after my friend Mason died. We were both out drinking one night. At 2:13 a.m., I heard it. 3 rings from the chapel. The next morning, Mason was gone. Found in his bed. No cause of death. I couldn't let it go. That bell rang for him. I needed to know how an abandoned church predicted death. What I found was more than just urban legend. It was documented, repeated, ignored. Until now. Mercy Chapel was built in 1871 after a cholera outbreak killed dozens. The townspeople believed the church's consecration would stop the sickness. It didn't. The original pastor, Father Elam, was blamed. One night, during a funeral mass, he locked the doors and set the chapel on fire, with everyone still inside. The only thing left standing, the bell tower. From then on, every time someone in town was close to death, people claimed to hear the bell toll, always 3 times. I found records from 1922, 1946, 1979, all matching strange deaths with unexplainable bell rings. Witnesses reported seeing a pale man near the chapel afterward, wearing soot-stained robes and holding a lantern. Some even said he whispers the name of the person about to die. I had to hear it again. I camped outside Mercy Chapel with a recorder and infrared cam. The wind howled. The fog crept. Nothing. Until exactly 3:03 a.m. The bell rang. Once. Twice. 3 times. Then silence. But not on the recording. When I played it back, there was a voice. Low. Croaking. It said my name. I ran, But when I got home, my mother, who'd been sick, was gone. Heart failure, they said. Peaceful. But she heard it too. She woke up moments before and whispered, "He's here." The priest with the bell. The death bell of Mercy Chapel doesn't just warn us. It chooses. It's not superstition. It's a pattern, etched into the soul of this town. And when you hear it, someone close to you is already marked. Have you ever heard something you couldn't explain? A bell? A whisper? A sign of death? Tell me in the comments. And don't miss my next story, The Lantern Keeper of Crooked Hollow Road. He only shows up when it's too late.